Welcome back to another Genshin Impact tier list video. Today's is a little bit different than normal. What we're going to be comparing all of these characters on is if there was a zombie apocalypse, what would all of the currently playable Genshin Impact characters do? The tiers are becomes a zombie, fighting when necessary, will survive, protecting others, fighting tirelessly, working on a cure, and what zombies. I just want to make a quick disclaimer that the tiers aren't in any specific order per se, they're just kind of there to act as categories for this, so don't be mad if a character you like is low in the tiers because most of these tiers other than turning into a zombie are still good. Now I'm sure it won't come as any surprise here, but we're going to be putting Albedo in the working on a cure category, and obviously he's an alchemist, he's very smart, so if there is a cure, my bet is that he would be able to find it. Aloy, I'm not 100% sure on because I didn't play Horizon Zero Dawn, but I'm going to put her into the fighting tirelessly tier, and this is because she can take advantage of any mechanical anything in the area, so you know, ruin hunters, anything like that. Maybe she can hijack it, take control of that, and that will make her much safer from these zombies, as well as giving her a lot more firepower. Amber definitely seems like the kind of character that would be fighting to protect other people, so she might be fighting tirelessly, but I feel that her main objective will be protecting others, so she's going to go into the protecting others tier. Barbara may not have the best offensive capabilities, but she is a healer at the end of the day, and she works in a church, so I feel that she might be aiding Albedo in working on a cure for this, as she's a healer and she can resurrect people if they pass away, so I don't know where zombies fall in that, but I feel like she could help there. Beidou is a character that can fall into a lot of different tiers here, but the one I'm going to be putting her in is protecting others, and this is because she has her crew on the Crux, so I assume she's going to be fighting alongside them and making sure none of them are attacked by zombies. Now Bennett does have a pyro vision, and I feel personally that pyro would be very advantageous here, but again, as always, Bennett has terrible luck, so I kind of feel like he would end up becoming a zombie somehow. I don't know how, but he would find a way. Chongyun will be the first character going up into the what zombies category, and that is because he has a lot of, I believe, yang energy. It might be yang, I'm pretty sure it's yang, and that's very positive. So we know that spirits already avoid him. I don't know if zombies would fall in that category. I'm going to assume that they will. So this means that wherever Chongyun goes, the zombies will just leave, so he probably won't even see them. Now, as we've seen in the game, Diluc, or the Dark Knight hero, aka Mondstadt's Batman, is already going around fighting off threats for the city, so I feel it's pretty obvious he's going to be fighting tirelessly to help take care of these threats. Diona is a cat's line, so she has the added benefits of that race, which I guess within Genshin is still kind of human, but you know, it has the cat benefits, so agility, better instincts, being able to see in dark environments, which I mean, it all kind of plays into her being able to survive better. Will she be out constantly fighting? I don't really think so, so she's going to survive, but I don't think she's always going to be on the front lines of battle. Speaking of being on the front lines of battle, here's Eula, going to fighting tirelessly because she'll be on the front lines of battle. Thanks to her companion Oz, I believe Fischl will also survive just fine. Oz can scout out the area, she can turn into Oz to scout out the area, and she has good instincts as it says within the Genshin lore in the stories that we've seen, so I think she'll be fine with surviving. When it comes to Ganyu, you could argue she'd be fighting tirelessly, and that's pretty accurate, but I'm going to put her into the protecting others because I feel like her reason for, I mean, a lot of the reasons for fighting are probably to protect the cities and regions that they're from respectively, but with Ganyu, I feel like she's grown closer to the people of Liyue, so she'd be fighting to protect them, because after the Archon War, she did choose to stay and help the humans rebuild, so I mean, she kind of has a soft spot for them, it seems. And here comes Hu Tao, not fighting tirelessly, and let me explain why. I believe she will survive though, so we're going to be putting her there. The reason that she's not fighting tirelessly is because every time that she, let's say, kills a zombie, she's probably going to arrange a burial for it and bury the zombie and go on with the whole procedure, and then she'd go out and fight and kill another one and then bury it again, and it would just be this long repeating process where she doesn't really fight all that often. I don't think I have to say much for Jean. She would definitely be fighting tirelessly. Now I don't know about you, but Kazuha neighborhood definitely seems like he can hold his own against a few zombies, though I don't think he'd be fighting tirelessly. Perhaps I'm wrong, but I mean, he's very poetic, he's very free and like free-spirited basically. So while I think he'd be fine with dealing with all these threats, I also believe that he'd be taking a little bit of a break in between, not like, you know, leisurely just I'm gonna go relax somewhere, but I feel like he would allow himself to recuperate before heading out again. So I'm going to be putting him in the will survive, though you could even argue he'd be protecting others. I believe this will be the first character that's going to be causing problems within the comment section, but I'm going to be putting Kaya in the fighting when necessary tier. And before you all start saying, well, you don't know the lore, Kaya's really strong, SMH, let me explain the reasoning here. I'm aware that Kaya is very strong, and if people around him are in danger, he will definitely help them if necessary, but again, that's if necessary. We've already seen in cutscenes that he likes to talk no jutsu his way through problems, and Diluc even comes in to take care of the threat in one of those cutscenes, and Kaya just stands there. He is the cavalry captain, but what cavalry is he the captain of? There are no horses, so he will definitely help, but only when it's really necessary. Perhaps Ayaka only belongs in the will survive, but I genuinely feel like she would be out fighting tirelessly against these threats, so I'm going to put her in the fighting tirelessly category. I think that was kind of obvious. Joining Ayaka in the fighting tirelessly will be Keqing, because I mean, we've already seen her run straight into battle in some of the cutscenes, so I don't think that would be any different if a zombie apocalypse were to occur. With Klee, I'm going to be putting her in the will survive tier. Now, I think she would be perfectly fine here. She could set up traps all over the city to protect them all, which I mean, you could argue is protecting others, but I feel she'd just be making any kind of explosive and dealing tons of damage to all these zombies. But Jean would probably try to keep her in her room to keep her safe from zombies and from her own explosives. I mean, she'd still find a way to sneak out, so she would fight, but she wouldn't be fighting tirelessly. Plus, she is a child, so that also plays into it, but she would survive. As we know, Kujo-Sara leads an army in Inazuma, and with that knowledge, I feel it's pretty obvious she's going to be on the front lines alongside her army, fighting tirelessly. When it comes to Lisa, there's a lot of places you could argue she would fall into. You could say she'd be fighting when necessary, you could say she would survive, maybe she'd be protecting others, maybe fighting tirelessly because she is very powerful, but she also just could be working on a cure because she's also incredibly smart. Now, I'm going to put her in fighting when necessary because as we know, she is kind of lazy. She doesn't like to expend her power, but she has a ton of it. So when she's needed, she'd be fine. She'd come in, wipe out a ton of zombies, and then go back to probably researching how to stop the whole apocalypse. I am also going to be putting Mona into the fighting when necessary. I don't think she'd always be on the front lines fighting, only kind of when she runs into zombies as she's out exploring or doing her research, but I feel she'd be perfectly fine surviving, though she'd be more focused on trying to find food or make money. Although, I guess in an apocalypse, money's kind of useless anyway, so I don't know, maybe that's not quite right. Ningguang could go into the fighting tirelessly, and I completely understand that if you were to put her there. I'm going to put her into protecting others because I think she would be focused on protecting Liyue. Next up is Noelle, and she's going up in the fighting tirelessly tier. I feel that she's not a member of the Knights of Favonius yet, but we know from lore that she is incredibly strong and she always tries to push herself, so I think it just makes sense that she'd be out there fighting. This is a fun one. If Chi-Chi were in a zombie apocalypse, what zombies? Not only does she have a terrible memory, so she'd keep forgetting that there's an apocalypse, but she is also a zombie, so wouldn't the others just completely ignore her? So I don't think she'd even notice what's going on. The Raiden Shogun is another interesting case here because, I mean, you could argue fighting when necessary. Maybe the Shogun herself doesn't come out, but only if there's like an imminent threat within the city or within the region. Or you could argue that she'd be protecting others others, as in protecting Inazuma. Maybe she'd be fighting tirelessly on the front lines, or you could argue what zombies to an extent, because maybe the zombies don't go after her puppet, and if no one reports all of this to her, would she even know? Though I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to put her in fighting tirelessly because we've known in the past she has defended Inazuma before, so I don't think that part would change here. I feel like I'm saying all of these are tough or interesting cases, but Razor, I was just thinking about it a little bit more. I was going to put him in the will survive, and now this is because I don't think he'd always be out on the front lines trying to defend cities and everything like that. But he is obviously really good at surviving out in the wild. I mean, he can find food, he can live outdoors with no problem, he's very agile, so obviously he'd survive just fine. But he would also be trying to protect all of the other wolves and maybe any of his friends that are around. So I actually think I'm going to put him into the protecting others tier. While Rosaria might not like attending church activities in Mondstadt, she's always out fending off any impending threats to the city, so I think she'd easily fall into the fighting tirelessly tier. Kokomi very well may be out on the front lines, as we did see in a cutscene that I won't go into too much detail to avoid spoilers on. She did appear in the battle after some time, but I also feel like she'd be really focused on just protecting everyone on the island, so I'm going to put her into the protecting others tier. Next up is Sayu, and I mean, maybe she would do fine, and I'm just gonna put her in becomes a zombie because I can see her just going in the forest, taking a nap, and that's the end of her. Sucrose is probably going to be trying to help Albedo come up with a cure for this whole problem, so again, just going up into the working on a cure tier. Tartaglia is another fun one because I don't think he'd be fighting tirelessly or necessarily protecting others. He would survive, I think he'd have no problem surviving, but I think he'd only fight when necessary. He's not going out of his way to, wipe out hordes of zombies, but if these zombies are causing chaos, he can take advantage of the situation and carry on with any plans that he may have. Moving on to the staff of Toma, I definitely think he'd survive with no problem, but I'm going to be putting him in the protecting others tier as he has lots of friends and connections, and I think his main priority will be protecting them. With Lumine and Aether, I think they'd be fighting tirelessly. I mean, I don't really have much else to say there. You could argue protecting others. They also do have a lot of friends, so maybe they belong more in the protecting others tier than I think about it, but I'm going to leave them in fighting tirelessly. Joining Lumine and Aether in the fighting tirelessly tier, we have Venti, and while yes, he is all about freedom and kind of leisureliness, that's definitely not a word, I do think he's going to be coming to the aid of Mondstadt in this time of need, and after all, he is the Animo Archon. Xiangling definitely could survive with her combat abilities. However, we know that she likes to test out the most random, crazy things in food. So I kind of feel like she would take some of, I don't know, zombie flesh? If it just sounds nasty, but she would take it and probably try and see what it tastes like, which I don't know the exact way that zombies work, but I'm just going to assume that that probably would either make her really sick or turn her into a zombie, and if she was really sick, then it'd be super easy for zombies to attack her. I don't think I need much of an explanation for Xiao. We already know he is continuously fighting demons for everyone else, which, I mean, again, now I'm questioning myself. You could put that into the protecting others, because that is kind of why he's doing it. It's literally protecting everyone, but I feel like he'd be out fighting tirelessly, just trying to get rid of this threat. Xingqiu is actually a tough one, not because there's a lot of places I think he could go, but just because I don't really know where to put him. Now, maybe he'd be out fighting a lot, protecting others, because he does have some friends, probably survive, but I think I'm just basing this on my opinion, so obviously it could be wrong. I'm going to be putting him in the fighting when necessary tier, because I feel like, he likes to read books, so he might be reading books, but because it's in this whole zombie apocalypse, he'll probably be reading books on ways to potentially resolve this whole conflict. So he'd fight if there was an imminent threat, but I feel like in his spare time, he'd be doing a lot more research, and you could argue that that would fall into the working on a cure, but I don't think it's necessarily a cure. It's more of trying to just find a way to end it all. It doesn't necessarily need to be a cure. And next we have Xinyan, and she's going, don't mind me, you see nothing. We're just gonna stick her there. I did so much research, and all I could find, she plays the guitar and she performs. I know she has a pyro vision, which I said I think would be good against zombies, but I can't find anything on her. So I apologize to any Shinyan fans out there. She will be playing music for everyone to pump them up in this time of disaster, I guess. I can't see Yanfei going out and just endlessly fighting off hordes of zombies, though she is half Adeptus, so maybe that is a possibility. Either way, she will definitely be surviving because she does have that pyro vision and, again, half Adeptus, so I don't think she'd have any problem there. Luckily, we have a pretty easy one here, being Yoimiya, and I think it's relatively obvious she'd be fighting off zombies to protect others. She'd be using her fireworks, her explosives, her pyro vision, and she would just be trying to protect the people that she's become friends with and her family. Last but not least, we have Zhongli, and even though he, in a sense, retired from being the Archon of Liyue, because this will be a apocalypse level event, he's going to come back and help fend them off, so he will be fighting tirelessly. This is my completed tier list for how all of the currently playable Genshin Impact characters would fare if there was a zombie apocalypse. Obviously, everyone has different opinions, and some of these I could even see being moved to different tiers, so feel free to comment anything down below of where you would place certain characters. All I ask is just be respectful about it. With that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, feel free to subscribe. I love seeing more people within our community, and I will see you guys next time.